Okay, hey, good morning, everybody. And I'm Mike Berry from WASBO, Executive Director of WASBO. Welcome to the May edition of Beyond the Pail, WASBO's bi-monthly facilities webinar. This is going to be a good one on maintenance of athletic fields, turf, and tennis courts. And to help us get into this topic, we have our usual amazing co-hosts, Jeremiah Johnson from Quantico and Joe Ledvina from La Crosse. Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
And you just did a major faux pas for the Muskego-McGonagall rivalry we have. So I love Andy
Did I
Rager.
reverse it?
You did.
Did
Yes. Yes.
I went through. Oh my gosh. Didn't I not say Muskego?
No, you didn't. But
So
it's okay.
this is, other than Greenfield, Greendale, McGuanago Muskego is the other one that just everyone mixes up. If I ever want to have a life of crime, I'm going to stick up a gas station in Greenfield because the confusion over whether the crime happened in Greendale or Greenfield will give me just enough time to make my escape. I think the same thing is true. You got to commit a crime where you're going to confuse the police over like where it actually happened. Well, anyway, I apologize for that. They're both fine school districts, though, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, all good. We all have good grounds programs. I learned a lot from Andy over in Iguanago. So happy to talk about grounds today, all types of things from athletic fields to turf, tennis, and staffing and all the stuff we hope to cover. So, Joe, we were talking a little bit beforehand about this season being tough on our grounds guys in particular. What's it like up in La Crosse right now?
Yeah, it's busy, right? And so, our spring sports season is so short anyways, and then you throw in inclement weather and then all these other things that are happening. And so it really does stress the grounds crew is to their full capacity this time of year because you just really hate to shut down the spring sports season. We don't want the reason that we cancel games is because of the grounds crew, right? And so a lot of stress to them at this time of year.
Yeah. I always joke too, our grounds guys do a lot of maintenance. And so when we're in like February, March, when they're doing snow removal and maintenance stuff, it's like get us as much as you can so we can tackle it. And then we hit this threshold where nice weather comes and it's like, don't send us any more work orders. Like forget we exist for the next 6 months because we're just after the grass.
Yeah, our
Yeah.
grounds crew is very similar. They do a lot of maintenance during the winter months. But lately, the we've had some nice weather early, so we could get out there just as you discussed.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a break in March, at least down in southeast Wisconsin, that we got like a week or two to get after the fields, but then it turned cruddy again. We had some surprise snowstorms, but that little week bought us some time to get after the fields. So when we talk about your team, you have a much bigger district than we do, but what does your team look like and what are their roles and functions? How many are there and how
Yeah.
are you working?
Yeah, so we have a grounds crew of four people, with one of them being the lead. And then we have Ann Enders in our department who leads that grounds crew as well from the management standpoint. And so they do a variety of things. They not only do athletic fields, but basically anything outside, right? And so whether it's maintaining the shrubs and the grass, they do a lot of extra things. So if there's a playground equipment that needs to be installed, they're the ones who do that as well. So they cover a large gamut of activities. We don't pay for playground equipment, but PTOs do, and so they raise the funds, and then they look to us to help them install that. And so there's a large variety there that our grounds crew really gets involved with.
Yeah, we're similar. We have six schools. Our high school complex is really like the beacon of where we got to pay attention to, where we have numerous soccer fields, baseball, softball, football, practice fields and stuff. So we have three and a half grounds maintenance guys. So we like to dedicate one and a half of them just towards maintenance, but a lot of times they get sucked back into grounds because of, right now we got grass growing like an inch a day, so it's you just can't keep up with it. So like yours during the off season, they're doing a lot of plowing and maintenance and getting equipment ready for the seasons. So I was kind of curious too, when you're filling these positions, who are you looking to fill them with? Is it internal people that are expressing interest? Are you finding skilled folks from outside of the labor pool to come into the district and do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. For us, everything's internal. So, external employees that we bring in, we bring them in as apprentice custodians and go for there. We've been fortunate, really fortunate that our hires that we've had over the years have brought in people with different expertise. We hired someone who worked for a tree service who has knows plant knowledge. We had someone who had concrete experience who kind of leads our grounds crew. So we brought in a handyman who started as apprentice. So we've brought in some people that were pretty qualified. So feel really fortunate in that. So training wasn't a real problem for that. They started with some real knowledge. Um, what we have done though in the past where we needed some training done, we brought in the from UWL the grounds the head of their grounds in and did some training with our staff, and we've done that in the past. But fortunately, we've had some pretty good internal candidates.
Yeah. I think it is important in these positions to kind of find a jack of all trades to
Mhm.
fill is just so various as far as like operating large equipment sometimes or doing maintenance projects or building decks. It seems like they're the catch-all for a variety of things. And so we got lucky. We actually hired a golf course superintendent that worked out in Lake Geneva, and he helped bring our program to a new level. We actually have a farmer on hand, and he's came from working on a farm, and so he's just really good at operating equipment. And so anytime we can get somebody that's got an additional niche and skill, it's really helpful out on the grounds. Being a great custodian often doesn't translate in, but if somebody is got the heart to learn, it's an opportunity to continue to grow too.
Yeah, those
Mhm.
those individuals who are jack of all trades who can do anything from working on the sprinkler system, right? That's got a leak or whatever it may be, is really beneficial.
Yeah. So when thinking about staffing plans in our district, we went from the early before 2013, we did a lot of contracted services. So we had one grounds guy, and we contracted a company to do mowing, and we contracted a company to do like field work and all the ancillary services. And we found that we could probably get a full-time employee for some of those dollars we were spending. So we started to buy our own employees back using the operating funds that we currently had. But what we quickly found is like what is the quality of work you want to get with those folks? And so a couple of years ago, we did a deep study of like what do we want our grounds to look like in the district? It could be golf course quality, it could be moderate, and it could be overgrown. And it seemed as though like our principals had this desire that our schools like look like really nice because it's the first impression that parents are seeing as they're pulling up to the school. So weeds became an issue, having good mulch, trimmed trees, like tight bushes. So the expectations had risen. So we had to look at it like, how much can our guys really do? We got three, four guys for the entire district, 220 acres, and they're just running like trying to catch up with grass. So there's some really good data. Say you use an X mark mower, you can go on their website and it'll tell you if you're going this fast with this size mower, this is how much you can do. So you can really start to hone down on what's really possible with your team. The same thing for spreaders, any type of equipment, they have that. And also it'll tell you man hours for if you want that golf course quality, how many hours should be spent per acre. And it's pretty intense. If you look at a golf course grounds crew, there's tons of them compared to what our staff are working with. That helped us hamper down expectations, but also try to just deliver a good product at the same time with what we had. Do you guys do any time studies or anything to determine if your staffing is appropriate?
No, I looked at what you put out here last week when you did that, and we have not done a time study on that. But I think you brought up couple points I want to touch on, and one of them is how important it is for our athletic fields and our grounds to look nice. Everybody sees our facilities. I mean, look at the number of people who come to a softball, football game, track meet, and then you look at see how many people enter a social studies classroom or an English or a math classroom. They don't see those things, right? The things they see are these big athletic events, these public seeking areas, and it's really important, I think, for the public to see that. We've really made some improvements over the last I would say in 2008, we really reorganized our grounds crew. We had one grounds crew person at each high school. and then we had another grounds team. We felt like we weren't keeping up with the demand at all of our schools. So that's when we formed this team of four, that we wanted them to work together as a team. We have not done this staffing demand study, but we certainly have looked at some things as it relates to equipment and how quickly can we mow lawns, what can we do, what type of equipment do they need to make the greatest impact on those facilities. But I really liked what you shared here.
Yeah. We ended up walking back our staffing a little bit. And so the guy I talked about that was the golf course superintendent, took on a head custodian position. So we had a decision, with benefits, they were probably making 65,000. So we decided to go to bid for mowing at all of our schools except for the high school. And that bid came back at like 35 grand. And then we looked at weed removal because a lot of things are like, oh, we need to pull weeds and trim hedges and stuff at those schools. So we pretty much bought all those services out at the other schools for that one person. So we had to make a decision, and that's where we went. But our time is probably best spent at our high school campus. So it seemed to be like a one for one. But then you end up losing that person for the rest of the year. We can use them for plowing or maintenance and things like that. But we're always learning.
Are you using temporary staff in the summer months?
Yeah, good question. We have two college students that we hire for the summer months. We try to, when I hire for summer kids or students, to look for the ones that are a little bit more capable, especially if they're over 18, because then they can run some of our trimmers and do a little bit more technical stuff. So I try to put our more skilled student workers on the grounds, and hopefully they return each year. So one of them, I think it's a 6 year back. He was in high school with us, and now he's a senior in college. So it's been helpful for a lot of the grunt work that goes on in the summer. How about you?
Yeah, so 3 years ago was the first time that we hired our some two younger teachers that were looking for summer work, and so we brought them in on the grounds crew, and that's been a huge help. Number one, they're invested in the community, they're invested in the school district because they're already employees, and they're looking for some extra money. And we worked with them, so they only wanted to work 4 days a week because this is their kind of, so they would work Monday through Thursday. They got a 3 day weekend. And I can tell you that has really helped with us keeping up with the demand. We just put them on the mowing crew, and they just take it and go. And then our other grounds crew can do some of those other things.
Nice. All right. Hey, and anybody listening out there, feel free to drop in some comments or questions, and we'll try to take them as they pop up.
Yeah,
This
I've
is
got a
something
comment if you guys don't mind.
yeah, Mike,
I'll try
go.
to just, just from being around the departments for so many years, not at all surprised to hear that the principals want, their schools to look great, right? Have you ever heard a principal say anything other than that, right? Couple of quick thoughts. When this is an area where this is a topic where coordination between the buildings and grounds department and the business office can be really helpful. Having a long-term capital plan for equipment,
Mhm.
without good equipment, you're never going to be efficient. And often it's hard when a board is trying to balance a budget to have, some $60,000 piece of like a tractor type thing, versus, trying to save the job of a first grade teacher. So it can be tough.
Mhm.
So, getting that capital plan built into your budget and then just maintaining it is really the key there. But even if you have to like lease it or whatever, you got to have the equipment. This is the return on that equipment is amazing. And your chart just showed it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
educating your business official about what you're doing, how you're doing it, and what your capital needs are, and how there's a fantastic return on investment, I think is really important. And then, we hear so much in sports, especially college sports, about the transfer portal. Well, we've had a transfer portal in public education for a long time. It's open enrollment. And like you said, Jeremiah, all these folks come to your campus and they look around and they can tell whether people care or don't care, And often on the weekends, if people are going around driving around looking at homes, they're often going to add to the itinerary, the idea of swinging past the local elementary school or the middle school or the high school. And so maintaining these grounds is part of a much bigger picture around enrollment, which is revenue. So it's all kind of a piece. And there's a lot to talk about there between the B&G director and the business manager. I felt like in my case, often the B&G director was educating me about these things. And then I was in turn sort of educating the B&G person about like how the finances work. And it's a really important partnership. So
Yeah.
there you
I
go.
appreciate what you said there, Mike. I can tell you how difficult it is because when I started, 20 some years ago, we had a 10-year replacement plan, right?
Yeah.
And things were going really well. And then we hit these really rough times where declining enrollment and budgets got really tight. And so what happened is what's one of the first things that goes is the equipment that you talked about. And so now we're trying to catch up a little bit. We're getting back to that 10-year replacement. But it's so impactful when you look in terms of what our grounds look like, how effective they can be or efficient they can be in doing their job. Equipment is really important. I mean, we bought two pieces of equipment last year and it was over $80,000. We're having the budget this year to buy two more pieces, and that'll be over $100,000. And so the prices have gone up, but it's really critical that you have good equipment.
Yeah, yeah. It's just inefficiency is never the answer,
No.
right? That's just yeah, you can't do business that way. Okay, well, thanks for letting me interject.
Yeah, no, good stuff. This is just another example of time study. So our guy Tim Gorecki does a great job at putting together data so you can actually do something with it. This is helpful to share with principals too if they have any questions about expectations. But this is our smallest school, and we just took the red area being that's what we have to mow, and how long we could do it. To Mike's point, with a 72-inch mower or a 96-inch mower. And that's just helpful to putting some facts down versus, oh, it's taken all day to do this. This is what the experts say that their equipment can do from fertilizing to spraying pesticides and stuff. And then we build each school accordingly and how long it takes. We have a very large elementary school that's on a huge property and it takes forever. We tried to let the grass grow to be like natural and the property is surrounded by houses and the neighbors didn't appreciate the long overgrown look, but we gave it a try to see if we could just make it look like natural prairie grass, and it didn't work. Do you do that like strategic mowing anyplace, Joe?
Yeah, we do. One of the things, and I have to give Ann Andrews in our department credit for this, when she started a couple years ago, one of the things that we did is we took our head of our grounds crew and what we call lead person at every school, building engineer. And so sat down with them at every school. We have a map that's similar to this at every site and color coded who was responsible for what. So then everybody knew exactly what they were responsible for and knew what the expectations were working together in maintaining the facility. So very have done a really nice job, and we've really upgraded the level of our sites by doing that. So some really organization working together between each other. The one question I was going to ask you is, what size mowers do you have, and how does that operate?
Yeah, we have both those listed below, but I think we found that although the 96-inch was good for big open spaces,
Yeah.
it's not great when you're working in near culverts or areas that are that are more tight. So I think my guys prefer zipping around on the 72. It feels like you can get it done faster. But we do have one of each. Actually, we have a few of the 72s and one of the 96s.
That's exactly what we have. We found the exact same thing. Sometimes bigger doesn't isn't more efficient depending on the site that you're dealing with it. And for us, we don't have a lot of huge sites, right? So our high schools are on one high school's on 40 acres, the other one's on 25. So we have some smaller sites, so the 72 mowers tend to work best. It's not a one size fits all, but certainly we have both of those.
All right. I thought we would talk a little bit about the types of fields. Things have really evolved over time from a lot of natural grass to now turf and things like that. So here are some of the things that we're working with. We have infield turf baseball field, which I have a slide a little bit later showing the challenges of spring sports and just the amount of work it was taking to dry up the field that it just made more sense to have a turfed infield. We have turf football too, which was fundraised by some local community groups. We have a soccer field, softball field, and I showed on the bottom too, we even have a cross country trail at one of our middle schools that we maintain. So aside from just green space, there is like a required expertise in a lot of these different spaces to understand the regulations between bases, lining, and just the surface playability really makes a big difference to the teams and the performance. You have similar, Joe?
Yeah, very similar. We have a turf football field that we did back in 2016, I think it was. That turf field, we got a Packer grant for that. I would encourage school districts that are interested in turfing their field. There's a $250,000 Packer grant that you can apply for every year. And I think they fund two football fields. Obviously that won't pay for everything, but they fund that grant by two school districts every year. And so know that that money is available. So when we did their first turf field at Logan High School, they we fundraised for that too. And so really put no district money into it. One of the things that we've done, because we live in an urban, right? Our schools are very small especially our elementary schools. So when we built a new school in 2014, on less than a city block, we have turf on our playground. And we've done that only because we couldn't maintain grass. We've done that at Hamilton Elementary School that's on even a smaller site. And so we put turf on that site as well. Natural grass we prefer over any, is the best surface, but just because of the site sizes of some of our schools, we use turf on site. At one of our middle schools was even smaller than those. We put a turf field in, and so we have turf on several fields, natural grass mostly. We maintain both baseball fields at both high schools, softball fields at both high schools, and then we also work with the community when we do cross country. So we'll go out there and paint lines for the cross country meets at off sites. We also have people using our fields. So WWTC baseball program uses our athletic fields along with the Boys and Girls Club. And so we have different types of fields and we have a lot of different people using our fields as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I said we should do a future topic on field usage and rentals and things like that because these facilities are used constantly. We used to have a grass football field for many years, and our guys did a great job of taking care of it. But one wrong weekend where they play on it, it could just devastate the turf for the rest of the season. So we would only allow our varsity team to play on the football field, and we didn't even allow them to practice on it. So when you think of the ROI of all the work that went into striping and getting it to look great to play 5 or 6 or 7 games on, that was like nothing. Our turf is now used all day. You pop outside and you see Fayed on it all day. We keep it open to the community, so the community's on it all weekend. And youth football paid us $100,000 over the course of 10 years to reserve it for Saturdays for their programs. So it's just so versatile. It's a upfront expense, and it used to be seen really as like a lavish type thing. But if you're really looking to get a bang for your buck, it's something that is a really good investment.
Yeah, where we put turf at Logan High School, we were having over 50 events on that field a year. We could not maintain it. We tried, we did everything. We invested a lot of money in fertilizer. We tried resodding, and it just didn't work for us. And so field usage is a big deal. I will tell you that one of the things that with TC, what we've done is they don't pay a field use fee. What we've done there is the Boys and Girls Club, the high school, and TC uses that. So we meet in the fall. We decide what needs to be done at the baseball fields for the following year, and we split the cost 3 ways. And so that's kind of the way I wanted to kind of set that agreement up. But there's different ways of doing it. But it's really worked out well for us, It's allowed us to experience some field upgrades that we normally wouldn't be able to afford. At the same time, allowing TC and the Boys and Girls Club to use our facilities worked out really well.
Hey guys, so this is my chance to sound like a really old man. Um, it's not that long ago. It was early in my career where the facilities just didn't look like this. The sports facilities. Again, it wasn't that long ago that football. This is in Waukesha County and some pretty wealthy districts in Waukesha County, um, where the standard was, of course, you were playing on a grass field for football. There were very often no lights on the stadium, and the games were played on Friday afternoons in front of, friends, family, a few others, and that was it. So there's been the expectations are so much higher on the quality of the facilities now. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was that yeah, we've got some really significant variations in resources around the state. Um, some communities are really wealthy and can do this, some can't. Jeremiah, you mentioned like fundraising for the football field. And whether it's Muskego or Mukwonago, there's a lot of resources in that community. And you go somewhere else in the state, and they have no chance of raising, $1.2 million. So that's an issue, in terms of how we fund the schools. But it's it's something I think we can
Yeah.
do better in. But these photos alone are just fantastic.
Yeah, I was just going to say commend Jeremiah, your facilities because they're outstanding. And we've really invested in our facilities the last several years and getting to similar situations. Our softball fields we've invested in those lately and done that. But overall, your facilities look outstanding.
Yeah, thank you. So our grounds crews, so even with grass, all grass, say in 2014, 15, and one groundskeeper, we were just trying our best to stay afloat too. So we totally get it. There was times when we were having rocks after the thaw. The rocks would be coming up through the football field, and
Oh,
some of those challenges I totally resonate with around the state. We tried doing little things to start, like and getting a logo. It takes time to spray a logo on, but it's amazing. You have a cross country meet and you put a logo out on the field and everybody applauds.
Yeah.
We put that logo in front of our marquee for our graduation ceremony, and people come and take pictures on it. Then it came to like, oh, can we do some different striping patterns with the mowers by putting a roller on? So we had a guy that just loved our soccer program, and in the upper left just spent a great deal of time getting it to look like that, just using a mower. So I think without resources, with somebody that's passionate, can make a area really pop a little bit. And then for anybody that can afford the niceties, God bless you.
Yes.
right. Well said.
Um, so talk a little bit about WIAA. I think I said too many A's there, but in their spring schedule, they're doing a lot of stuff. Even this summer, things might change a bit with non-contact days and increased hours of field usage and stuff. But we used to do fall baseball. Now we've switched to spring baseball, which the first year was a total nightmare. I have a picture on the left. If you could see the field, we could not dry it out. So we were putting down like quick dry constantly, which we actually found got into the drain tiles and clogged the drain tiles. So then essentially our baseball field became a pool, and there was
Oh,
no way of keeping up with it, which forced us down that path of turf. How have you guys handled spring sports being even further north? I feel like we might have a little benefit down here of climate.
Yeah, we don't try to use that chem dry because you're right. It causes more issues than not. So we try to avoid that. We found the same thing. One of the
Yeah.
things that we've done, and when I say we've invested in our fields, one of the things we've done is the mixture that you have on your infields. So we've over the last probably 4 to 5 years, all the way up until last year, we've just changed the mixture. There's some really good mixtures out there. Again, it's expensive. But what we've done is we've just redone our fields, dug up um, all the mixture of the turf, not the turf, but the sand. And
Mm.
so we gone to a red kind of mixture clay, and it's made a huge difference for us. Games where we would get rained out. So investing in just those little things have made a big difference. I'm trying to think back. Last summer we did the softball field at, to give you an idea, we did the softball field at Logan High School, dug out 6 inches and replaced the whole infield. And it was a Wisconsin company that we did this with, and the mixture that they use. So they've done a lot of testing on that. And we were built over a swamp, if you know where Logan High School is. And so we would have cancel games like crazy. This
Mhm.
year, we haven't had to cancel any games from having water on the field. And so changing that infield mixture was huge for us, and
Mhm.
allowing us to do that. So we could get rain in the morning and it could be ready in the afternoon. And we've never done that before.
How much does a field like that cost, like to do that infield? We're
Yeah,
tinkering with it.
so we would have, it would come from central Wisconsin, and so I think we had like 16 loads and a little over $1,000 a load, and to redo that. And so when you look at the cost, yeah, 16 to 18,000 to do that on a softball field, but it's made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Even not only with games but practices and being able to get there on spring. So it's made a huge difference, and that's one way to kind of address the issues of that early spring without much cheaper than turfing your infield, right? Even though turfing infield is not a bad thing, we chose to go that route, and it's really been well received.
Nice. And you know who gets really angry if you don't get your fields ready in time? Your
Yeah,
athletic director and coaches.
yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, yeah. Unnecessary tension probably between the two entities, buildings and grounds and athletics. And I think for me, I've worked with two athletic directors, both very different styles, both very high expectations, both will throw you under the bus pretty quick. But I think it's a good to have some sort of like meeting schedule or drive around or just having those connections with those folks. What do you do to keep proactive and make sure that that relationship doesn't deteriorate and that you have a common shared expectation of what everybody expects?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that relationship is so important. And Endries in that art department is the one who kind of works with the athletic director. She's the go-to person. So what we've said is they have a direct call. They know we have each other's cell phones. They're talking all the time, but they sat down. One of the things that we did, we started this last year, is we started having expectations for coaches and teams, and came up with a plan and shared those expectations. And so at the beginning of the season, the spring season, we sit down with the coaches and the athletic director and kind of go through. I know there's if there's a, you can, a link on the webinar chat to what Ann shared with the coaches. And so we give everybody some responsibilities. We don't put all the fields uh, care on us. We want the coaches to have something involved in this. And
Yeah.
so if you want to look at that, you can see we have expectations written out for what catchers should do in their area of the ball field, what pitchers should do, first base, second base, shortstop, even the outfielders have a task. So everybody on the baseball and softball team has a task that they have to do after every practice and game to help maintain the fields. So then we can have the quality of fields that they desire. And it was really well received. And it's kind of interesting. My son played college baseball, and so after every practice, they each had a job to do, right? So they do it at the next level, and we are
Yeah.
trying to incorporate that in this level, and it's made a huge difference with our coaches. A lot less issues, if you will, than we've had in the past, because there's a list of expectations. It's laminated. It's in every dugout, and so we even sat down with the TC coaches and the Boys and Girls Club coaches, went over those same expectations. So we'll invest where we can, but we need their help. You can't just do it with four grounds crew. And so you need others to do that. But the relationship is really important. And it's really, we've had less issues once we started doing that.
Yeah, it does. It excites me when I see our grounds guy or our manager, grounds manager, taking a ride with our athletic director, just
Yep.
checking out the fields and making sure everybody's on the same page, on the same team. it seems that every sport, and this is a good thing, they're all super passionate about the facility and the quality of everything. Sometimes real expectations can get a little out of whack as far as what they think should happen, but they're living in their own sport. And
Yeah.
so track thinks they need a new track, and soccer thinks that you should scalp the whole field and redo all of the sods. So each coach seems to have a different expectation, and it'd be great if that it is great when it funnels through the athletic director. So we have a shared message. It's not just me saying we can't afford it, we don't have the labor. I think another thing too is like every sports coach seems to know somebody that's in the profession of doing construction or can come in and do it cheaper. Or we'll bring in guys on the weekend, and we try to dissuade them of that we can handle this professionally. So it is definitely a delicate balance, and having that relationship maintained is critical. When it
Yeah.
comes to canceling games, it's good to having that same voice too, that it's not just, oh, Browns couldn't keep up with it, we're canceling another game. There should be some shared decision making in that it's not safe to play on because the warning track is flooded or whatever the case may be.
One of the things that was always happening in the past, right? And so we kind of put a coaches would call our grounds crew directly. And so that's when we started thinking, you know what? We just need the athletic directors, everything to go through the athletic director on their side, everything to go through our buildings grounds manager on our side. And so we don't have a lot of different people kind of interjecting and getting the
Mm.
wrong information. And so we were seeing a lot of that happening, especially with our coaches, just calling and demanding this be done, this be done. And through these meetings that we started incorporating and giving everybody tasks, it's made it a lot better.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing I've noticed too is that like teams seem to think through their booster clubs that they got a lot of money to help offset costs. And I've found that largely to be untrue. And then I get left with the bag. Like
Yeah.
we recently had a project that they thought they had $20,000 for, but they didn't realize that that $20,000 was to cover their transportation for the year and their uniforms. So they kind of overpromised, and I got left holding that. So incorporating your business manager, making sure when a team says they have money, that they actually have money, because in the end, we know who's paying for it.
Yes.
I talked a little bit about different
Hey,
types of equipment.
Jeremiah,
Yeah,
just a
please.
quick
Yes.
comment, because in my role, I'm traveling all over the state, and I was looking in the trophy case of one of the high schools. It's sort of in the general like mid-state area, and I think that their girls softball team had won maybe the conference championship, maybe a regional. Anyway, they had a picture of the team, and I swear to God that they this is the greatest thing. It's a girls varsity softball at a high school, and in their official team photo is their groundskeeper.
Oh, very nice.
That's very nice.
I was like, oh, that is so incredibly cool,
Yeah, yeah, that is
It's
awesome.
yeah, so remind your it takes a team, right? Team's a team.
Yes.
Yeah. There used to be the grounds presenter for the certification program was part of a NFL program, and he would talk about how important it was to go out with the coach and walk the field because a running back can only run so good on certain lengths of grass, and
Right.
so there's some teams that they'd be like, all right, turn the grass up a bit, slow that running back down. So yeah, the more synergy together, the better.
Yeah.
The Chicago Bears groundkeeper doesn't have to worry about like the red zone because they so rarely get there. You know? Um,
That's coming from a Bears fan. Wow.
I know. I'm a bitter and disappointed Bears fan.
That's all about the change, Mike. All about the change.
That's right. That's right. Next year is going to be different.
Yes.
Wait, if I had a
Yeah.
dollar. Anyway.
Yes. We touched on a little bit about equipment. There is just a variety of equipment. If you go to our back lot right now by our ground shop, it's all sitting outside as it's getting ready to put away snow equipment and bring out all this stuff. But you got mowers, aerators, top dressers, probably a tractor. Some have skid loaders. You got your whatever your all-terrain carts that you get around on. There's just a variety of things to keep track of and keep a pulse on, like the replacement cycles, as we touched on. One thing that I've seen is coming around, and we haven't touched it yet, but is autonomous mowers where you can essentially just a mower goes, it sets its own program. There's also turf tanks, which can line your fields autonomously. We haven't dabbled in any of that. Have you yet, Joe?
No, actually, I was going to ask you that question. We have not done any of that, and just found the expense to be kind of there. But I did talk to someone at our last facilities conference, going around, and the equipment prices have come down on some of that. So I'd be interested to hear from people who've tried that and if it's worked out well. But no, we haven't dabbled in any of that. Even with custodial equipment, we haven't done any of that.
Yeah. And I think
Your
this is
your
an area
colleague,
that, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Greg Maru in Oconomowoc
Mhm.
has one of those computer-driven striping machines.
Mm,
And I think it's like it's financed like over multiple years.
Mhm.
And he demonstrated at a summer custodial conference a year, or maybe 2 summers ago, like
Mhm.
yeah.
like a year and 3 quarters ago. And Greg is, well known in the building and grounds world. His his conclusion was that it was doing a fine job and it was freeing up his painter or his grounds person to go do work that like a human has to do.
Yeah.
It's like a higher order of work. So he felt it was a great value.
Mhm.
That's what I feel like if the prices are right, grounds work is infinite. So it's not like you replaced a human, you freed up a person to do more of the other stuff because you're always up
Exactly.
against something.
Yeah.
Agreed. Just to touch on the basics of a good program, would be aerating, overseeding, and top dressing. For those that take care of fields that are on the call, you know the importance of opening up the soil, getting seeds in there, and letting the soil breathe. But it really tears things up and it looks terrible. And then 2 weeks later, everything looks amazing again. So if you're getting away from this type of thing, you're likely going to have some compaction and bald spots and things like that. So this is just something really healthy to incorporate, probably in the fall, but also again in the spring, just to keep things open. Do you guys do this, Joe? And how do you track, or how aggressive are you guys?
Yeah, we do this, and we're pretty aggressive with it, and we do that. One of the things we not only do our athletic fields, we'll do our play fields as well. So like at Longfellow Middle School, we have grass turf. There's no athletic fields there, but we'll do that there too. And so the challenge becomes timing of everything too, because when you want to do this, right, you want to do it in the spring. And so working with the principals, working with the staff at the schools, so that we can get on those sites and do those as well. You're right. It doesn't look well, but it really does make a difference when you're looking at the turf and the condition of the turf. And we we even take very seriously that top dressing and the combination of different soils and mixes. And so the individual you were referring to earlier who used to do this field maintenance turf for the certification course, we went to them years ago and they gave us kind of a mixture that wash masonry sand and black, and they gave us a good combination. So we've gone to experts for the type, but we do that ourselves.
You can also consult with any of the suppliers of these either
Yep.
equipment or products, and they can come do soil tests for you too. All soils are different, even on your own campus, and might require different type of fertilization. So
Yep.
it's a little bit of a chemistry there. One of our older grounds guys that we had before, he was interested in how fast he could grow grass. So I went out to the ground shop one day. He had a like grow light with like 4 different grasses out, and he's like testing different things like that. So sometimes you want to get the grass to grow quickly, like at the goalie area of a soccer field that gets tore up during a game. So there's a little bit of chemistry behind all this stuff.
Yeah, I will tell you one of the things that we've done where we need to grow grass really quickly is pre-germinate seed. And I didn't think it would work. We tried it. We talked to an expert. They gave us kind of how to do that. Didn't think it would work. And you know what? It's amazing how fast, if by pre-germinating your seed, how that works. And you basically, I'm not going to get every detail here, but you take your seed, you soak it in water, and for so many hours before and then you dry it out and then put it into the seed, and grass will grow even faster. So we've even tried some of those things, and we found that they work really well. And it's through talking to vendors, talking to experts, and when we've had to do that really quickly.
Yeah. Tennis courts, no mowing here, but obviously some work to be done. One thing I point out, we have tennis courts. They're old, aging, and failing. They have a lot of cracks, and so when they construct tennis courts, they put these expansion joints between them, and those things grow over time, sometimes to the size of like a paver brick. So you do need to maintain those cracks where they intentionally are supposed to be, usually doing some sort of crack filling every 5 years or so, until it gets into the playing of the field. So when you start to get cracks in the middle of the courts, that's when it's time to look at what to do next. As far as maintenance goes, we put the tennis nets up prior to the season starting. And one thing we try to do is annually do a pressure wash of them. They have some nice pressure wash attachments. This is before pressure washing in the picture, and you can see the blackened areas that can actually, that's like algae and can get slick when it rains or if it's wet. So taking that down, number one, looks nice, but number two is it just makes for a safer surface. We're in the market soon for new tennis courts, so we'll see how that goes. How's your tennis court maintenance, Joe?
Yeah. Well, tennis courts and tracks, right? Those are, we need them, but they cost a lot of money. And so you alluded to that earlier. And so we do the same things you do. We power wash them at one of our high schools. It's surrounded by trees. So when you talk about the algae, that's a really real issue that we have to deal with. So power washing those is really important. Staying on top of the cracks, because if you don't fill those cracks, what will happen is, as you well know, you'll get rain in there, you get snow in there, and then they expand when it freezes, and so you won't get as many years out of your tennis court. So just doing those little things, you can come in and repaint your tennis courts without touching the base, but probably every 15 years or so, you're going to have to tear up the asphalt depending on the condition of it and start from scratch. One of the things that we've found too is that the pole extensions where you put in the nets is that
Mhm.
make sure that you cover those really well so you don't get water inside of them during the winter. We had someone remove ours for the winter one, and we keep ours in over the winter for that
Mhm.
reason. Removed them over the winter. We had a new engineer, didn't realize they did it, and really we had some major problems in the spring because of that. So those things, and then we put up wind screens, take down our wind screens so we get a little bit more life out of our wind screens as it relates to that. But it's all the same things you're doing.
Yeah.
Great opportunity for community relations on the tennis courts too, right? If you can get lights, people can play at night, and it's all part of that. Look, you're paying a lot of taxes,
Yep.
and while primarily it's there to educate the kids, there's some little extras that we can provide with a little forethought. Usually, the issue is it gets dark too early, and there's no bathrooms. But if you can in your design, account for those, even if it's porta potties, if it has to be, until you get enough fundraising done. Um, those are great. Also, there's like summer camps that your community runs, and your kids aren't around in the summer so much. So great opportunity to give something back to the community. But you got to
Well,
think about that on the front end.
I'll tell you just a quick story. We have lights at our Logan High School tennis courts. They were put in before I started with the district, so 30 some years ago. And
Yeah.
it was through a grant through the DNR. And every year I get sent to me a questionnaire from the DNR. Are we still maintaining those lights for our tennis courts?
Hmm.
They
That's
can't keep
great.
track of anything else, but they keep track of that.
That's
So,
great.
Well, we touched a little bit on turf, so we don't have to dive too deep into there. I did get a message from Kevin from Wauwatosa this morning, sharing a little bit about that lower left picture. There's a tool that you can put on that'll pick up trash on your turf. So if you got gum wrappers and different things like that,
Cool.
he said it's been a game changer for him. Um, there's other things you should probably be doing to maintain the turf, as far as like even a form of aeration and getting the crumb rubber pushed back in, because what it naturally wants to do is push out. So you'll get a bit of thinning in the middle. Um, outside of that, just thinking about the impact that a good grounds program can have. So in the right-hand side on the upper part, this is what our marching band does to this practice field over the course of a 1 week program that they do. This was the first year that they were not outside during that program. We now have an indoor facility. So the bottom is now that restored field and what it looks like now, but it was just trashed. So it took a lot of work for our grounds team to get that field back to life. And it's just amazing what you can do when you really put your heads together.
Yeah. I will say for our turf for at Logan High School, we have a grooming machine for that turf. And so it has a magnet on it because it picks up all the metal stuff that you'd be surprised that you lose during the course of a football game. But we do that several times a year. And it kind of fluffs the turf, spreads those rubber underneath that. You should also have a compression test on your turf every so often. And so we did that last year for the first time because it was 10 years old. And when we put in this turf, and our turf is in really good shape. I know when we first put it in, they said 10 years life expectancy. We're going to get 15 years for sure out of our turf. But I think it's because we're maintaining it. And that machine came with, when we purchased the turf, came with that. And so we did that when we purchased it. And so we maintain it that way. It's made a
Nice.
big difference.
Last thing, I'll throw a little plug. I think it's tough to get recognition for the grounds folks. There's not a lot of organizations. I think there's some organic little pop-up things around the state. I know Midwest Turf does a turf field of the year voting where you can vote on, you send it out to your community and they'll vote on the turf. But if you use Pioneer Paint, which I think a lot of us do, they
Mhm.
have something called a Field of Excellence Award. They award like I think hundreds a year. So not saying it's easy to get, but it might be. We kind of year after year nominate a field. You send them a picture and a little description of what your team has done to the field, and then they send you out a banner and a recognition, which you can do in front of your school board or just give some props to your team that's working really hard out there.
I mean, WASBO could sponsor the Carl Spackler um, Field Maintenance Award if you're a fan of Caddyshack. You could,
Yeah,
what do you think, huh?
yeah,
Yeah,
not a bad idea.
not a bad idea. Yes.
All right.
Any questions that we've left out there in space?
Hey, can I let one other final comment? We had a buildings and grounds director who passed away a few years ago. His name is Patrick Acker, and he was in Pewaukee with me, and he was in terms of like trying to get advocacy, from the just from the budget, from the board and administration to support things like equipment and turf and whatever. He did something that was super effective. He didn't just show pictures of his own school district. When he went in front of the board, he was like, "Here's Pewaukee, here's Arrowhead."
Mhm.
Here's Kevin Moraine. He showed all the other conference facilities. And man, nothing motivates a school board more than saying, we are not going to have
Yep.
inferior facilities compared to so and so. So, just a little tip when you're presenting, use your conference comparables. Go take some photos of their stuff. It'll motivate your team more than anything else.
Yeah.
Great
So,
idea.
thank you,
Very good.
Patrick, wherever you are.
Mm.
And there was a question on the chat that says when you have seams tear in your turf, do you fix them yourselves? And we do not. We call the manufacturer and they send someone out, and it's really not that expensive for them to repair those seams. So haven't had that happen very often. Actually, it was on the elementary school, not even on our football field where we had to do that. So, but we asked the experts to do that.
And ours is time
Well,
dependent. We watched them come out and fix it and kind of figured out how to do it ourselves. So if it's something that we can bide our time till they can get out, we
Yeah.
will wait. But if it's something that's like we got football tonight, we know how to do it. So I'd encourage anybody to learn just in case they're in a pinch. Or you ever see
Yeah.
that what was it, the Wisconsin Badgers game got held up and there's a
Yeah.
groundskeeper in the end zone sewing?
Yes,
That was like
yes,
all of our day right there.
I know.
right.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Make sure you understand what your warranty requirements are. Sometimes you can void your
Yeah.
warranty if you're doing too much on your own, right? They'll
Yep.
say, "Well, we're not going to honor it." So just be aware of that.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Good point.
Well, yeah, it was a great episode again. This is something that you could probably talk about for 8 hours, given the complexities of all these different facilities and stuff. But hopefully, it gave any listener just the basics of what our program is, and likely you guys have something similar going on by you. So appreciate the attendance. Is this the last one of the school year? Are we
This
coming back in
last one of the
September?
school year, yes.
All right, last one of the school year. We've had
Coming
thousands
back,
and thousands of viewers that we hope return next year. So it's great.
coming back bigger and better next
Yes,
season.
yeah,
Hey, this has been a blast doing this all, all the way back into the fall. I really enjoyed it.
yeah. Me too. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you
Yeah.
for coming on board.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.